Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Anime Watch Club, a bi-weekly group discussion and review where the hosts of the What Do You Say Anime podcast nominate and vote on show theater we haven't seen or shows that hopefully lead to a great discussion. On today's menu, we will be reviewing the 2018/2019 anime, today's menu for the Emiya Family. Let's meet today's cooks and their go-to choice meals. First up, his go-to dishes, rice and gravy. We got Jay. Jay, how's it going?
It's going pretty well. Happy to be here discussing this. I pretty much watched all of this in like one afternoon, which is pretty rare for me, but I enjoyed it nonetheless. So.
We call that pulling a pat on the podcast.
True.
Next up, his go-to meal is sesame chicken and rice. We got Kat. Kat, how's it going?
Hey, I really love sweet foods, and sesame chicken, I always make my sesame chicken way too sweet, and also way too dark. But going with the rice is very, very nice, and it takes up my entire afternoon. So I'm glad to serve that to a bunch of people. That's why I buy a whole ass 3 pounds of chicken to make it. But yeah, I really enjoyed this. I actually watched this with Trent for the most part, and then watched the last episode of my own.
That's cute. I'm glad you guys had a play date. Cooking up the next plate with his signature dish, Asabuco. We got Trent. Trent, how's it going?
It's going good, Ossobuco was a go-to meal for a Valentine's one year, and the nice little braised veal short rib over some garlic mashed potatoes. It got me to the next Valentine's Day with the next girl, but maybe next time I make it, they'll stay around.
If you cook that for me, I ain't leaving you, my man.
Bet. Sounds good. I'll see you February 14th.
Fantastic. Thank you, chef. Our first moderator of the night, cooking up the chicken cordon bleu in the lab. We got Miles. Miles, how's it going?
This is amazing, Trent, because I, too, learned how to cook this in order to impress a woman, and then we got married. So, what I would suggest, try some chicken cordon bleu.
There we go.
And chicken wing guy, Pat.
Yeah, well, you guys don't know, in my secret recipe for that chicken wing sauce, maple syrup mixed into your... No. Well, no, you don't know the secret, but if you did, then that wouldn't be a secret anymore. But yeah, maple syrup, try mixing that into your hot sauce next time. It will completely change your life. But yeah, Pete, what's your go-to dish? I don't know if you got to say that or not.
I don't want to spoil it because I'm going to do it later on, but it involves some form of chicken and some form of potato.
And some form of air fryer.
Whoa, yeah. Come on!
Yeah. Dude, knowing you, Pete, that fits. But yeah, perfect. All right, well, we're talking about today's menu for the Emiya Family, which is based in the Fate cinematic universe, sort of, I guess. I don't really know what else to say about it.
You're right.
It's made by Ufotable as well, who's done all the other Fates. They've done Demon Slayer, right?
Whoa, not all the other Fates.
Yeah, not all of them.
Not all of them.
We could only be
the good ones, the really good ones.
If they were to have, but no, sadly.
Not Dean Stay Night. Yes, that's right. Of course, yeah. So they've done most of the other Fates, and they do Demon Slayer. What else have they worked on? Either way, that's enough for you to know that they're a very good studio, very well known for their crisp animations and high levels of production. So yeah, why don't we do our first impressions of this show? And as a little surprise, I want you to tell me what your favorite food is, or favorite dish is, so to speak. That not one that you're comfortable making, but I want to hear what your favorite food is. So Miles, why don't you start us off?
Just like my general favorite food ever?
Yeah, and your first impressions of the show.
Sure, yeah. So I watched this show on my plane flight back to Germany. It was a nice show, I guess, for that relaxing. So I came into this expecting, I don't know, to not really like it, I suppose. I mean, I think it was fine, I guess. But I ended up enjoying it quite a bit more. And we'll get into the reasons why. But I think having familiarity with the characters beforehand really helped me out, because they didn't need to spend any time establishing anything or anything. They could just hit the ground running because they've already done the vast majority of the character work in the previous series, right? So I can't imagine really watching this. I think it'd be kind of confusing if you weren't familiar with the characters. But if you like Fate and like you like Fate because you like the characters along with any other reasons, I would definitely recommend this.
Fair enough. All right, Kat, what about you?
So, my favorite food. I know people are going to. Oh, you didn't do your favorite food.
Yeah, no, I didn't. I mean, I don't know. It's like buffalo chicken something. I'm like a really basic white dude. Like, you know what? I'll give a more fun answer. I'll say chicken and waffles.
That's a really good
Ooh.
answer.
Ooh.
That's up there for me too. So,
Yeah.
well done. Kat, what is your favorite food? Non-baka or something? What was your?
Shut up.
You were
My
loading
favorite-
it up like it was. That's why I was like wondering.
Baka,
No,
I think it's baka on naan.
Ah, there you go.
Yeah, no.
I hate you all. No, this is something that may be equally controversial because people who are like sushi purists will hate me for saying this because one of my favorite rolls is California roll. It's like one of the things that most sushi places have. My favorite dish is a deep fried California roll.
That sounds
I can
really
respect
good.
it. I can respect it.
Yeah.
Sweet. All right. What do you think about the show?
I thought the show was really enjoyable. I really vibed with what the show was putting down. Like it went along with some of the like short form shows that I watch because I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but it basically deals with a small prefecture in Japan, and it deals with like the main character loves like chicken wings, and then they go out to get chicken wings like every episode or every other episode. And it's really really nice, and this reminded me of that. Except for instead of the prefecture and the relationship between the two main characters being the focus was the Fate series, which I also like. So I enjoyed it.
There you go. All righty. Jay, what about you? What is your favorite dish?
It's kind of a tough one, actually. That is actually a very tough question. I just love eating food in general, to
I
be
know.
Yeah,
honest
heard that.
with you.
Heard that.
True.
Preach.
Damn. It's probably like a muffaletta from Central Grocery in New Orleans.
Ooh.
Can you describe a muffaletta for me? Because I've never.
Basically, for those of you who might not be in the know, a muffaletta is like a sandwich with really like it's a really like crusty bread with like a sesame seed topping, and then it's like 3 or 4 different types of like cold cuts stacked with cheese as well, and then it has an olive salad spread on top of it.
Ooh. That sounds.
It's usually so large that it comes cut into 4 portions that you're meant to share with 3 other people.
I just ate, bro.
Yeah, and I'm still
Yeah.
hungry. Yeah.
They're delicious. If you're ever in New Orleans, highly recommend it.
Fair enough. But all right. So, what do you think about the show too?
Show was pretty solid, honestly. I guess I'll just cut to if I can if I want to recommend it to somebody. And honestly, I think unless you're like I'm just gonna say no, because I think if you're a Fate person, you probably are gonna watch this anyway. So I don't need to recommend it to you. And if you're not a Fate person, you're not gonna get the most out of this, and you could go watch another cooking show. To be honest with you, so I like that is with a asterisk next to it where I like this show. I just wouldn't recommend it to somebody because I think it's like very niche in the way that people who would like it are probably going to seek it out and watch it anyway.
That completely makes sense to me. I definitely agree with that. Trent, what about you? What's your favorite food?
So my favorite food is probably one of a few things. It would either be ribs. I love ribs. I love barbecue. Probably a burrito, super burrito. Either al pastor, shrimp. I love a shrimp burrito, or carnitas as well. Or if not, the go-to breakfast and comfort food that'll make me feel good inside, remind me of home, would probably have to be, it's very simple, Spam, eggs, and rice. Fry up the Spam, cook a couple over easy eggs, throw it over a bed of rice, and I'm good. I'm golden after that.
You Hawaiian freak. Unbelievable. Like,
it'll be one of those things. It'd be one of those things. So, but as far as my impressions and what I recommend the show, Jay put it very well. I'm the one who nominated the show. I am someone who loves Fate, played Fate Grand Order, spent quite a bit of money in the game. I
Made YouTube videos.
Not made YouTube videos. I started my YouTube career making Fate Grand Order videos, which are they're private for now, but maybe one day they'll be unprivated. But watched as much as I could. There's still some things, animated things I haven't watched, but I'm like deep in the Fate well. Now, would I recommend it? Unless you're a fan of two things. Unless you're like level 2 in Fate, where like you watched Unlimited Blade Works and maybe you watched Zero or the Heaven's Feel movies. I'd say that's like level 2 Fate fan. And if you're a fan of something like Eurocamp, where you want comfy, feel good, pretty landscapes, things like that, I would say if you're a fan of those two things, you'll have a great time. Otherwise, if you're not even a fan of Fate in the first place, I would not recommend anyone to start here. But that's where I would go with recommending the show. So not for everyone, but if it is for you, you'll love it.
There you go. All right, Pete, what about you?
Favorite food: chicken parmesan and donuts. My absolute go-to. I love those two things.
Together?
Maybe not together, but those are my go-to for sure. That's my favorite things in the world for food. Mimicking what Trent and Jay said, if you're a fan of Fate, I would recommend it. Otherwise, first impressions coming into this, it was Ufotable. I knew it was going to be beautiful, and it absolutely was. I was hoping like the music and other things that Ufotable does really well would be on par, and I also think that it was. So my first impressions overall is what I was getting from it. Fun Iyashiki slice of life where they're just cooking food and hanging out. And yeah, I thought it was pretty solid. So my recommendations with that, and I had a good time with my first couple episodes.
Fair enough. All right, sweet. My favorite food is either a really good Cuban sandwich, ideally from New York City, from like some hole in the wall in New York City, or a New York strip steak bone-in. Very rare, about as rare as they can legally make it. So as for impressions on the show, I agree with Trent that Jay put it very eloquently as well. There's not much to this show, I don't think. Like it's clever, it's fun, it's very pretty, and they do a good job with the characters. All of that asterisked by assuming you know Fate or assuming you like Fate, because otherwise you're not going to get anything out of the show. And I do think that it dragged at points. It was very, very much like some episodes were really good, others were pretty okay to me. Maybe that was like based on what they were making. I found a couple really cool recipes that I kind of want to try now from the show. But at the end of the day, I wouldn't recommend this to anyone other than a Fate fan who also kind of like, I believe Trent said it's like a very similar laid back camp as well, where you get the cooking, you get the slice of lifey stuff. So if you like that stuff and you like Fate, then you've probably already watched this show. So, there's not really many other people to recommend. But sweet, yeah. So let's get into the spoiler-heavy show that this is.
Yes.
Very spoiler-heavy.
Big lore implications.
Yes.
I would like to already reorder my itinerary. Because I think it makes the most sense to start with the food. I don't know what you guys think, but I think that's like, the core component of this show. And let's get to it, and then we can talk about all of the sort of trimmings that make the show fun, apart from like the central theming after that.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Good food pun there. Yeah, we're gonna be full of those today, aren't we?
Yeah. So there's a few things. So like the basic outline of an episode, right? You have like a setup of some sort, and then usually Saber gets hungry, and Shiro makes a meal for whoever is getting hungry most of the time. Sometimes other people cook, usually it's Shiro. And then that you learn about like the food. So like half the episode is the setup, the other half is basically Shiro cooking with a little post part of how people liked the meal and how it gets wrapped up. So my question for people is, and some people pointed to maybe it dragging sometimes. You would have like 6 minutes in a row of Shiro just cooking sometimes. Did that drag for anyone? Did you enjoy those things, etc.? And then after we talk about that, I want to get into like specific meals people like really liked. Is there anything people want to try? I know Trent, little spoiler, made himself one of the meals. Have you tried it yet, Trent?
I have not. It's sitting here right in front of me.
Okay, so we get like a live reaction to that. Okay, that's pretty
What meal
exciting.
was it?
So I went ahead and is an idea that kind of came at the last second here. I didn't really have too much time to cook and prep. Just kind of enough time to run to the store, grab a couple ingredients, something that I knew would be quick. But I went ahead and tried out the spring vegetable and bacon sandwich that was made at the temple for the Copenhagen staff. It's a little different. I had to substitute an ingredient here and there, and also another thing for personal taste. I'm not a big fan of mustard. Instead of the mustard butter in the spicy honey mustard spread, I just went with regular mayo and then a creamy sriracha instead. So you still get a little bit of spice. So I went ahead and did that. And I also swapped so they call it spring vegetables, spring greens in the subtitles, but what they used was something closer to broccoli rabe or rapini. The first store I went to didn't have that, but it still has something in the similar ruvo vegetable family. And it's something very similar. It's in Japan they call it komatsuna, but it's like a Japanese mustard spinach, kind of like a bok choy. So it's still in that like leafy, cabbagey, broccoli family. It works similarly for me, and as you saw here, it looks pretty good. I'm excited. I got the bread and everything. So
take a bite.
Take a bite. All right. It's been sitting for a minute. Live reaction. All right.
Great audio content here.
Get close to the microphone so we can hear the ASMR.
I'll try. Turn up whatever gain I have on this thing.
I'm kidding. Please don't do that.
Okay, he's biting the sandwich.
That shit does look fucking good, though.
Our audio listeners, he's looking at the sandwich. He's nodding his head positively.
Approval. Oh my God, Trent, what's behind you?
Okay.
I would make it again.
Okay, good. So he would make it again. Now, what a detour. What was everyone's thoughts on the cooking sections? I quite liked them. I found them cathartic for some reason. I don't really like cooking, but I do like ingredients being put together and making something, I guess.
You scientist.
So, I don't know. I found it nice though. Like I found it very calming. It was nice. But what was everyone else's thoughts on them?
I actually used to watch PBS a lot, so I would watch like America's Test Kitchen and stuff like that. That was enjoyable in a nostalgic way, mainly because I didn't have cable or anything like that. So PBS was one of the only things that I could watch other than the news, and the news is depressing. So I learned how to cook food from there. So I found the show like really calming and relaxing. Not as much as Yuru Camp, but I did really enjoy it. And I think the one that I want to make that's closer to what I normally make is the chop suey fried rice. But the one that I really want to make, like that I actually want to make, is the hamburger steak.
That did look really good. That hamburger steak, like when they made it, I thought it was great. Pete, you had your favorite recipe, or
I guess I'm gonna follow up with what Miles was talking about. Like in terms of like the actual meals, I like how they started with like the easier stuff, but in the series, I do wish that they kind of made it more complex or complicated, because I think a lot of the meals were like very simple, and like the episodes that like stuck out to me in terms of like the food was when he had to prepare more ingredients, like the hot pot episode. Like to me, that's where I was like really digging the food. There's like one episode where, like, I think it's episode 2, where he made like essentially what I call a Pete meal, which is like 3 ingredients to a meal, and you call it dinner. I think it was like salmon, onions, and carrots. And I would have done the same thing and then thrown it in the air fryer and put it, and then 12 minutes later come back and have my food ready. Like those meals in the show were not my favorite. And then I think it would have been fine in the beginning, and then as we progressed, got more and more complicated. And I kind of wish I saw that, but I would say, I think Pat mentioned it earlier, I think there were some episodes that stood out way more than others in terms of like the food and the food presentation and sort of the settings that they were setting up for with like the actual dinners or lunches that they were making.
And the animation of the food too, I don't know if you noticed this, guys, but this is a bit of a sidetrack, I guess, but the animation in the show, while it was good at times, it felt like it was very inconsistent. Like it was very like some episodes they put a ton of budget into, and others they didn't. You know, like it felt almost like and even especially near the end, it felt almost like it was a different art style than the where it started at, which I thought was super weird to just to see. The dish that they did hamburg steak in was awesome. Like learning, you know, like I don't know, my parents and I, when we make hamburgers, and hamburg steak, I guess, is technically a little different, right? That's essentially the same thing. Like, learning how they season it over in Asia was very, very cool to see how different it is the way we do it here. And I learned a trick because my dad and I, when we make hamburgers, often they end up more meatball shaped than like traditional burger shaped. And, you know, we don't mind that. But now I've learned a trick from that show to like how to flatten them out without just like pounding them, like to actually take the air out and stuff. And the same thing when he was preparing the fish, learning that trick with the salt was really cool. Like that's how you to get the moisture out, to keep it from smelling or tasting fishy. I think that's a cool trick that. And it must be an old trick too, because it just uses salt, right? There's nothing like special about it. It's just salt, and then like I know they probably used to use leaves to dry it, I guess, back in the day. Like I don't know. Again, just a bunch of really cool little tricks like that. I felt like I didn't learn as much on the dish side of things, especially because half the time they were cooking with stuff you can't really find in a normal grocery store. But I learned a lot of the techniques and like little like tricks like that more throughout the episodes, and that is where my intrigue came from more than, oh, they're making this type of meal today, or they're making this hot pot, or this type of fried rice, or whatever. Like that stuff, I was just kind of like, whatever, you know, it's happening.
I thought a lot of these things seemed hard to make. Like he makes a sandwich, and it involves like pressing things between boards. I've never done that to make. There's like added, like I guess like it's not the world's most complex thing, but like for a sandwich, that was a pretty complex sandwich. I feel I don't know.
It is a good sandwich.
Yeah. I feel like the pressing stuff that they were doing with that sandwich was very like an extra step for no reason, almost. Like, I mean, not no reason, because it makes it look neater. It makes it easier to
they said it like blended it in like a way too.
So does like taking a bite.
Or probably like
I don't know,
fit in the box, right? Like the
right, or that
bento
too.
Box, yeah.
Right, exactly. Go ahead, Trent.
A lot of it is for presentation purposes. It's a little bit of presentation purposes, and also there is some use to it. Like for the vegetables in the sandwich, when you blanch them, you're dipping them in boiling water. Then you take them out, put them in an ice bath. It's already a leafy kind of wet vegetable. If you were just to put it on right away, all that water, it would still be on the vegetable, and you put it in your sandwich, it's just going to get soggy and wet. And so there is a lot of it is presentation, and some of it is real kind of techniques, which to some, like if you're just making it for yourself, it doesn't really matter. If you're okay with it, that's fine. But if you're making things for someone else, which I kind of see in his case, because he's not making this for himself. He doesn't. If it's just for him, he's like, oh, these cuts could be a little bit more rough. Like, for example, your parents at home making stew, right? Who cares if the potatoes are different shapes? But if you were to get that at a restaurant, you would want the nice, perfectly cubed potatoes, perfectly shaped carrots, things like that. And for someone like Shiro Emiya, who's very proud of himself and his work, it kind of makes sense, because it's his name and his work that he's giving to someone else. It's as if he sees it as a gift. So it's like, hey, I don't want to give you this half-assed gift that I didn't really care about. I want to put my all in this for you to enjoy. So from that instance, it's like, yeah, if you're making it for yourself, who cares? But when it comes to making things for other people, the presentation is pretty key. So that's where I see those steps there.
Makes sense. Yeah, I think those steps do matter. In like what?
I don't know anything about cooking. Trent was just like talking, and he was like, you know, oh, you do the and I was just like, holy
Whoa.
shit.
I mean,
As
I
you
was
can
on for the rest
see,
as well.
Yeah.
The show kind of motivated me to throw back on my chef whites that I never thought I would wear again after leaving culinary school in college.
Doxing
So
yourself,
this is
yeah.
right up my alley.
No, it makes sense. I mean, it's cool stuff too, and like I don't know, so like a press would matter in like a Cuban or in like another sandwich, right, where it's actually being like pressed on a grill. And like you said, the moisture thing that is a pretty big thing, which is why I don't know, like when I looked at the sandwich that not only the one that you just made, actually, funnily enough, but on the show, I was like, that looks like the stuff that I used to get served in elementary school, like when they give you like the to-go bags or whatever for and granted it was usually PB&J and not an egg sandwich like that, but like it was pressed, like clearly it was like tightened and intentionally like set up so that it would last longer, carry better, whatever. So I think that those techniques, again, it was cool to see them. Some of them I was sitting there like, all right, I could do this recipe, except I would get pre-prepared salmon instead of like doing it myself or something like that, where like, yeah, deboning, and also they didn't fully like show everything too. Like deboning the fish, they just showed Shiro going like this to debone it, and it's like that's not how you have to do a lot more to debone a fish than that. So I hope no one hurt themselves trying to emulate this show too. Like when you think about it. But yeah, all right. Well, what's our next major talking point? Did we want to like I don't know? I guess in a way it kind of ties into what we were just talking about, like how certain things like our enjoyment of the show was from learning different things or how we enjoyed these episodes. Like I don't know, like to me, I really lost the show really lost me when it got too nitty gritty into the oh my god, this tastes so good and the stuff like that. Like and I guess that goes back to the structure of the episode, like you were talking about how there's the setup, there's the oh no, Shiro has to make food. How is he gonna do it? Followed by the him making it and then their reactionary like stuff afterwards. After he was done making the food, I was kind of just like, all right, cool, that's it. That's all I wanted to see. I didn't care about hearing them go, oh, this is like divine, or like the flower bit, like they'd all like
I love that.
flush. Like I didn't give a shit.
I
I was
love that.
thinking about how like I kind of wish Saber had less of a flower reaction and more of a Food Wars reaction, but that's neither here
That's
nor
because you're
there.
a simp, bro.
Trent, you had something to say.
Yeah, flowery Saber, the level of bliss that she is achieving is where I want to be in life. I wish I could feel that every day, the level of happiness and joy that she has from eating, whether it's a big stack of fluffy pancakes, some hamburg steak, a sandwich, some fried rice, whatever it is. That is what humanity should want to achieve, is that level of bliss and enjoyment. That's what I want in my life. But like talking about your point about the kind of the nitty gritty of some of the techniques and things that they do in the show, kind of like Kat mentioned early on in the introductions, he grew up watching a lot of PBS and America's Test Kitchen, things like that. Like that in my household, if I had the TV on, I had Sports Center going on 24/7, whatever was on ESPN. And when it wasn't that time for me, which was a lot of time, my mom would have the TV, and it was PBS, America's Test Kitchen, some Rick Bayless show or Julia Child show, or it was Food Network with some other show going on. Alton Brown, I love Alton Brown.
Yes.
Absolutely love him. That was basically on repeat at my house. And that, growing up watching that, is kind of what made me want to, once I did get to college and I was kind of struggling to find my way, is what kind of pushed me to want to go into culinary arts for a bit. And the techniques that they show off in the show are actually pretty damn good. There are other shows like sports anime, for example. I'm not the most knowledgeable, big into sports anime, but a lot of them kind of make a big spectacle of the sport rather than showcasing the sport itself.
Yep.
And something that this show does that I absolutely love is that these are real techniques, real dishes, admittedly being Japanese myself and having familiarity with Japanese and Asian foods. They're dishes that I'm familiar with than most other people, but it did a really damn good job, in my opinion, of showcasing the food and the actual cooking rather than something. I'm not familiar with Food Wars, but I know how when everyone's clothes just rip off and everything like that. Like at that point, it's like that is overshadowing the cooking, I feel, because everything that I hear about it, not having watched the show myself, is everyone's reactions and the food gasms, whereas I don't really hear much about the cooking itself. Whereas this, like, it focuses more on the dishes being created rather than like, yeah, the food gasm where, yeah, you get everyone's reactions where it's, wow, this is really good, and you get blissful enlightened Saber and Ilya and Taiga and all of them, which is really great and all. But I really like the emphasis that it had on the food and the dishes itself, and it did a really good job of that.
So for me, on my end of things, I am not from a professional culinary background, so I cannot relate to that. I just thought it was like, I thought at least at some level they were emulating some of the techniques, but it wasn't really anything that I was gonna be like, yeah, they did real techniques, because I don't know. But one of the things that I really liked was it wasn't really anything that I think that other people would relate to, but something that I really enjoyed is at the end when they were reacting to it. It's kind of like when I cook for my friends. Like, I really enjoy the reactions that they have to the food that I make, because it, for me, I guess comparing it to, to sex is kind of like aftercare, where, like, have, after working really hard on a meal, like having people like congratulate you and compliment you on the things that you've done. Shut up, Pete. That is really, really nice.
It was funny. That's all. Just
But-
good. You
but,
did a
like,
great
you
job.
you
in
did-
Sex Cat.
Yo,
Like,
great dick, cat. Great dick.
Yeah, great job.
But look, if you haven't gotten complimented on, who are you fucking? Anyway, like, for me personally, it feels really nice to be complimented on what you've done very well, and like, it's just like, that's how I view it, and I kind of lived vicariously through Shiro because of that.
No, totally.
Great
Like
bit, Pat. Great bit. You did fantastic there, man.
the other night, I went over to my friend's house, and he was like, "Hey, we'll go to the grocery store. I'll buy some steaks if you cook them." I'm like, "All right, bet, sounds good. We're about to have some steak." And yeah, it just like Pat mentioned earlier, you put salt on the steak to draw out the moisture and helps get that nice char, the nice sear for the nice little crust you've built of pepper and salt and garlic and everything. And yeah, the aftercare with my buddy, my buddy and I and the rest of his family, they treated me well with some great aftercare there. It felt really great inside. It was really reassuring.
See? Not just me.
Yeah.
It felt so great inside.
Yeah.
23.
You always gotta make shit weird.
You made it weird.
No, you made it weird.
All right, guys. Miles, do you have another talking point for?
Yeah. I too like being complimented on my sexual intercourse, Cat. I get it. So, apart from the food, I think like the secondary star of this series was the characters. They are the Fate characters, and So if you liked those characters, you like these characters, they're the same. I have a couple of questions about the characters and how the show presented them and everything. So one thing that Jay pointed out that I thought was like a really good observation was this show doesn't hold your hand at all. It just sort of assumes that you know the source material. That can be weird if you haven't seen the show recently at times. But I also think that the show sort of changes the characters a little bit to make them more conducive to not killing each other automatically. And so for people who maybe weren't super familiar, and I don't know who was or not, but with like the UBW characters and everything, were you thrown off a bit? And for people who were familiar with things, like, was Caster, like, for example, being changed to be so different? Did you like that? Did you not like that? I personally liked that. I liked a lot of the characters that didn't get large roles in UBW getting a chance to shine here. But I could see, someone who liked Caster because she was sort of cunning and manipulative and cutthroat, maybe not being the biggest fan of the fact that she's like how she is in this. So
I would say I enjoyed her simply because I don't even remember her from the show.
Okay.
Like, I didn't remember her talk or her personality, so to speak, as much.
Mhm.
Which, again, like you said, it's because she's behind the scenes, strings, whatever. I felt the same way for, is it Ryder? Ryder is Sakura's the
yes,
one.
yeah.
Like,
Ryder is in like 10 seconds of UBW.
Right, like almost irrelevant, right? Like, and so, and like to the point where I was like, oh yeah, that's Medusa or whatever, right? Like, oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, like, I don't know, like, so she actually got lines and got to do stuff in this, and so I think that was cool that they did with the characters. I also liked their, in general, to tie into your whole point. I thought like Saber and Lancer, the two of them, like, their personalities were always really fun in the original show, and they were only just highlighted more in this version of the show. And still a little pressed that they made the Irish guy like salmon. Like they had to be like, oh, ho, ho, it's like but they did tie it back to it, because there is that old folktale of the salmon of knowledge that I thought was pretty cool that they actually even brought it up. Because that's not a very well known myth, not my understanding.
So I was just in Ireland and they had a salmon thing at a Burger King, Pat. So I think that it makes sense. That's my 2 cents on it.
So stereotypes are okay if they're against the Irish people. Okay.
As an Irishman, absolutely.
Stereotypes are okay if your Burger Kings have salmon burgers.
Italians are included in that too.
I see as well. Everyone makes fun of Italians, right? Like, we're all allowed to. That's a great Shane Gillis.
And honestly, the French.
Yep, French.
And also the British, Spanish, Germans.
All the colonizers are being
Swiss, Dutch people, Russians. Like half of Russia. So
we can't
not even half of Russia. Maybe like 25% actually.
We can't make fun of the Balkans anymore. Like,
Denmark.
What has come of this place? Like,
yeah, I think I got most of them out of there.
Norwegians.
What's going on now?
Norway, yeah.
South Africans.
Greenland and Iceland, of course.
Of course.
People from Quebec every time.
The worst.
Yeah.
Well, that's the French, right? So, like,
yes,
yeah.
But they're like the worst.
They would argue about it.
Yeah, they would.
Not the people from Quebec, but the French.
Yeah, but they would. That's the whole point, though, right? Like, that's them. I mean, Australians, South Africans. I mean, we're covering everybody.
Hobbits.
Our international viewers are just going to go way down.
Argentinians, of course.
Argentinian. The ones with German last names specifically.
Yeah. People who arrived in Argentina in like the mid to late 1940s specifically.
Yeah.
Let me get the demographic stats real quick for people we're not allowed to make fun of.
Yeah.
Canadians.
Okay.
We take back what we said about Germany, and we take back what we said about Britain.
No, not that one.
That's
fine.
Well, according to my demographics, we have to.
They deserve it. They can take it.
I'll forgive the Germans, but I'll never forgive the British.
Honestly, yeah.
I'll never forgive.
Okay, so back to the characters. Does anyone else have like thoughts on this? Did they like the additional characterization? Did anyone have issues with it? Was anyone lost on some of the characters or anything like that? Pete?
I was so lost on Caster.
Okay.
I don't know if it's just because I love Zero more than Unlimited Blade Works, but I just remember Zero Caster and not this Caster.
Yes.
Completely different person.
Yeah, I'm just like, wait, this Caster's married and loves her, I guess, master. And I was
That
like,
was weird too,
the last,
right? Like,
yeah, I in my head, Caster is a serial murderer. And she's a loving housewife.
to be fair, in UBW, she is like also a serial murderer, just not quite like the eat children serial murderer that Bluebeard is. Okay, Trent, can I try calling you out here? And I don't know if it'll work or not, but
Okay.
so this is Pete. This is why I don't think you remember. Like you said, Trent, you're like really ingrained into like Fate, right? Like
For the most part,
You're
Okay.
a Fate guy of the Discord.
so.
Yes.
I imagine you knew who Caster was, and this is the
Yeah.
reason why you did, because she puts Saber in the wedding dress.
that is something that I do remember about her. That is what she is most famous for, about being the antagonist of the first third or so of of Unlimited Blade Work. So that is definitely memorable. You are not wrong.
where are we going with this? Is this an
I thought other people would. I thought others would remember that as well, and that. But I guess
Hey, Trent, don't
tying
worry.
her up and locking her from her hands and whatnot.
Oh
and,
yeah, I do remember that.
yeah, the rule breaker, and the knife and everything. Yeah.
No, I don't remember any of that.
I was just
I'll
I
be
don't
honest, I
remember it
don't.
either.
no,
I don't. I genuinely don't. This is we said it earlier. Pete also just said it, but like I said earlier in the chat, Fate Zero stuck with me so much more
Yeah.
than Fate
Mhm.
Unlimited Blade Works did, because holy shit, I watched Zero 4 years ago almost at this point, and I watched Unlimited Blade Works 6 months ago, not even, and it's like I could not. Caster came on the screen, and I was like, "Is that what Caster?"
yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, well, so
Like,
one, she in UBW, she normally has like her hood on because she's hiding the fact that she's an elf, because she's like, I don't like she like in her world, elves are treated like we just treated the British. So like she looks different, maybe because of that. Like maybe that's why you didn't remember her as much. But also, I mean, she does. I mean, get Saber in like a very bondagey position, which, I mean, telling on myself is partly how I remembered her, but I wanted to frame it on Trent, you know?
It's
Yeah.
iconic. A lot of the fans remember that.
There's a figure of the position.
Yes. Yeah.
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 What's on your background, Miles?
But yeah, so like I guess I imagine a lot of people might be. Caster is also like very different in this. So that makes sense. And like as is her master, like they sort of friendlied them up like a fair bit, which I kind of liked. I sort of like it when people take war criminals and make them friendly in slice of life shows. Trent, what do you have to say?
Yeah. I think seeing all of the characters in different scenarios, aside from trying to kill each other, where they're kind of want to take a break for a second, cease fire. I think timeline wise, this is supposed to. From what I understand, it's like a parallel alternate timeline of Hollow Ataraxia, which is the sequel to Fate Stay Night. So at this point, like the fighting's kind of on hold, but I like that you still do see tensions, like when Saber sees
Archer.
when she sees someone that she had previously had beef with, she'll immediately get ready to throw hands, which I thought is really funny. Watching UBW, that was I watched UBW then Zero. As a Tsundere fan, I was Team Rin. out of everyone for a while. I was Team Rin. But then watched Zero. Got to see glimpses of Hungry Saber. And then I watched this, and I absolutely love Saber. I'm torn between the two. I love a girl who can eat and loves food. And then so I watched this before I ended up watching Heaven's Feel. So as previously mentioned, Ryder, it gets wiped out within like the first 10 seconds. She is a nobody in UBW. But seeing the casual characters of casual Ryder and like casual Caster was so great, and it just made me like them even more. And then if you ever watch Heaven's Feel, that made me really enjoy Ryder even more because she is a very integral part of the Heaven's Feel movies. So because Fate started as a visual novel, everyone has different routes. There's the Saber route, there's the Rin route, there's the Sakura route. And as you watch more things, as you get more ideas and you see more of the characterization, you start to really appreciate them more. So yeah, because like before this, in Fate Grand Order, she's a basic 3-star servant. Ryder is no one in UBW, but then you see this and you're like, wow, tall girl who's good at volleyball. She's really sick. She's really cool. I enjoy her a lot. And so seeing the characters in these different roles, like it makes it a refreshing experience for me, I would say.
Pete, you had a question that you wanted to pose to the group.
I did, yes. So what this show does is it takes what we think of Fate, this action battle royale, and turn it into an Iyashiki slice of life. So I wanted to get your guys' thoughts. If you could take another franchise and sort of flip it on its head and change what its premise is, what its genres are, what it's trying to do, what would you pick? So my example would be Laid Back Camp, and they sort of get into a scenario where they're like committing fraud, but then they have to like live off the grid. So that's where like their camping comes in, that they're like living in the forest because they committed tax fraud, and like Rin is actually like like she was skimming off the top at her accounting job, and Nadeshko was stealing cash from the cash register, like, and then they have to go live off the grid. So what would be your guys' shows and premises for flipping it on its head?
Yeah, I'll go first. So I'll do something that's in the vein of what we just watched, right? So like this is a very obvious answer for me, but I would take G-Witch, and I would just have a slice of life show like after the series with like Suletta and Mio living on that farm and just interacting with people. As another show where you can take war criminals and just like make them friendly for the slice of life aspect of the show, which again I already said I was a big fan of. But I think that would be like, I think I would like watch the hell out of that and give it like a 20.
So one that I have in mind, it's kind of keeping in the moe type of world here, is the anime New Game, where it's about this game development studio where everyone that works there, they're all cute girls, and they're making like fantasy action RPGs or other games, things like that. But I think it would be funny, it would be interesting at least, where what if instead of your traditional forms of a game studio funding, what if they were funded by like some blood money, or what if they were funded by some like Middle Eastern blood money, some war crimes or things like that, and so where they're conflicted with their studio taking terrorist money, evil money, but they got to make a good game. They want a job. You never know. So I think that might be something that would be could be a cool twist on New Game.
You're just calling out ESL on our video here. I love
Oh,
it.
maybe, yeah,
Yeah,
perhaps.
Trent, are you gonna have to edit out your own section for the podcast?
Yeah.
You should bleep all that out. I think it'd be very funny. Actually.
I'll believe the country that that I mentioned.
I mean, that's where the blood money comes from a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, from yeah, no.
Yeah. Exactly, from England.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Oh, that you made me lose my train of thought so hard.
I think it's tough because like Zombieland Saga already kind of does this, right? Like throughout their own show, where they like put them in weird scenarios and make them, just make their personalities shine. I think that would. There's so many shows you could do this with, and maybe like Ruby I guess it's cheating because no, it is an anime. Fuck you guys, it is an anime now. Yeah. I'd take the Ruby characters. Yeah, I know. I'd take the Ruby characters, and I don't know. They already kind of did it with Ruby Chibi, where they just kind of like have them screw around in like chibi form and do various skits. But maybe taking them and putting them into a slightly more serious setting, so like what Pete was saying, like I don't know, watching them in like a battle royale would be sick or something like that, rather than so maybe I kind of warped this question a little bit too much, but like I don't know, you take a lot of cool characters from shows like with like larger casts. Imagine them just having to battle royale it out like Hunger Games style, like how sick that would be. I don't know. I think that
do that to Yuru Camp.
Yeah, that'd be fun. You could do it to like I don't know. Bunny Girl Senpai, K-On! I was thinking, I was about to say like, just do another season of Haruhi, and like that would also be a pretty fitting answer, right? Like, I don't know, because there's so many shows that you could do that with. But yeah, I think Ruby would be my pick and make it a battle royale. That's how sick it would be. Kat, you got one?
Yeah, so I thought about it, and I was thinking about My Dress Up Darling, where instead of it, or flipping it on its head, instead of it being like, they fall in love after, them helping each other, they, like, Gojo ends up getting recruited by, like, maybe a fixer, and, like, Marine is, like, a con artist that goes around the world and, like, goes into banks and cons people using, like, Gojo's prowess with
so he makes costumes for her to like impersonate people or like whatever, and then they go around conning people using the power of cosplay.
Exactly.
That's
that
pretty good.
Fucking amazing.
Exactly. That'd be so fucking cool, right?
That would be good.
Yeah, that's very good.
I think you're like do you remember that like early 2000s movie Master of Disguise with Dana Carvey? I thought you were going that route. I was like
turtle.
Yeah, turtle. That's what I thought you were going with it. I like the other one better though.
That's a sick. I would watch that. I would watch a lot of the things we pitched so far.
I thought that he was gonna say something about Marin becoming a prostitute. Like I'm not gonna.
No.
Yeah. This is a pretty simple one, but I think I'm just going to go ahead with the old faithful. I think they should do a Planet Earth type beat for Pokemon, where they just narrate the ecology of Pokemon and stuff like that in their environment without
that's super cool.
That would be cool.
It'd be a lot of fun. It'd be a lot of like Pokédex entries basically being
literally
turned into bits or turned into episodes. That'd be really cool.
It could be like shorts or something, honestly. I think it'd be perfect.
We had some great ideas. Japan. Listen to us.
Yo, hit us up.
Hit us up, Japan. What do you say, Japan? Hey,
what do you say, anime?
Someone had this dude with the boo soundbite.
Yeah, I was gonna say that.
You made the fucking podcast.
It's like that's the joke that I was making, Kat. Almost, it's almost like that. But no, I
like it. I appreciate it.
It's. What do you say, guys? I mean, what can you say? Have we ever asked? Yeah, we can say anime. All right, let's do our final thoughts. I mean, we talked so much about this show, by the way. I just want to highlight that before we give final scores as well. How we spent probably 40 of the 50 minutes that we talked about this talking about other stuff, to some extent at least. But I enjoyed it at least, so that was fun. Miles, what's your closing thoughts and your final score? Or
Yeah, I really liked this. We didn't get to talk about the animation a ton, which I think is sad. So I think everyone will agree that like at certain points the animation is just absolutely fire. That volleyball sequence is nuts.
Yeah.
I just liked that Ufotable was like, yeah, sure, let's like flex every now and then. I had a lot of fun with this. I liked most of the characters and stuff. One thing that I didn't like was that I thought Ilya, when you take away her like disconcerting nature, is worse of a character. And just like a little weirder in existence when she's not supposed to be creepy. Like I feel like she has to be creepy to function correctly.
She's just a regular girl.
Yeah, it's just
a regular lolly as well.
Yeah,
they like, told her that
like,
in the show. Yeah,
yeah, she's older than Shiro, right? Like, anyways, like, so there's that. But like, ultimately, I really enjoyed the show. I didn't really expect to, but I had fun. I don't really like cooking. Oh, and like I would say from the recommendations at the beginning, you don't have to like Eurocamp to like this. I think just liking Fate is like probably enough. Because I don't like Eurocamp that much. But I'm gonna give this an 8 out of 10.
8. Wow. Okay. Kat, what about you?
Yeah, I really enjoyed this show. I love the discussion that we had. I loved watching the show. It was very, very fun. Going off the animation, yeah, like watching through the animation, it did change a bit, it was hard to kind of differentiate between like the somewhat hard lines of like of Unlimited Blade Works and Fate Zero, to kind of almost like a Miss Beelzebub feel, where it was very fluffy and very cozy, almost a little bit too warm in a way. It was a little disconcerting. I liked it, but it just felt off, especially with Fate characters. But one thing I would like to say is that the next time we meet at a convention, we got to do the Taiga and Lancer dance at some point, because that's one of the things that got me into anime. But yeah, I really enjoyed this show, and even though I would like to recommend it to people, I would probably recommend Fate. This would be a reward for watching Fate other than Fate, in my opinion. So, yeah, I like my final thoughts. I give it an 8 out of 10.
8 out of 10. Jay, what about you? What are you?
I'm gonna keep it short and sweet. The highlights of this show definitely for me were the cooking scenes, obviously, and the volleyball scene.
Yeah,
that was peak. I also think that the one thing that was not mentioned that was very good in the show was the OST. The OST went pretty hard. Not something I would maybe listen to in like my spare time or something like that, but for what the show was, like it had no reason going that hard in a good way. But other than that, like I think that we touched on a lot of good stuff about the show. I think we brought up some pretty valid points about whether or not we would recommend it to people. And I think with all that in mind, I'm going to go ahead and give this show a 7 out of 10.
7 out of 10. All right. Trent, what about you?
Yeah, so this show, obviously being a very big Fate fan and a big fan of these characters, it'll be a skewed score. Although I did give it initially an 8 on Mal back in the day when I first watched it. But as previously mentioned, like Ufotable, I give them credit for giving kind of moe slice of life stuff a shot, because Ufotable usually does the higher end, the more serious Fate stuff, like UBW, Heaven's Feel, Zero, etc. And the slice of life or the offshoots of Fate, like the Fate Grand Orders, the Fate Extras, things like that, those usually get handed off to like A1 or Cloverworks or something like that. So I'm really glad that Ufotable still, put some work on this. And as mentioned before by the others, they will remind you sometimes with whether it's the volleyball scene. There's a chase scene with one of the club members or classmates in like throughout the school, which was out of nowhere. Like, whoa, we're ramping up the frames here. This is looking sick. But and just the overall art style of it being so much softer and warm, as Kat mentioned. Whereas for him, it might have thrown him off for it being used to other Fate things. It's definitely different for sure. I thought it was a welcome change. If you've watched Fate and are familiar with Fate, as Kat mentioned, this is a great reward to kind of relax, kick back, watch some good food, and enjoy yourself instead of despair and death and killing and ripping people's hearts out. Instead, you're putting stuff into their stomach for a good time. But all in all, after rewatching it and seeing more of these characters over the years and seeing how much fun and a good time it was, based off of pure enjoyment and how happy it made me, I'm gonna give it a 9.
Woo!
I'm gonna bump up my mouse score one. It's getting into the 9 category because it's short and sweet. They're only 10-minute episodes, and it's fun, it's happy, it's good, it's comfy, it makes you feel good.
Son of a bitch. All right, Pete, what about you?
Yeah, I want to talk. My final thoughts. I want to talk on like the second half of the show because to me that's where it really shined. The non like shopping aspect of the characters interacting with each other kind of elevated it for me. Whether it's Sakura and Rin like doing like a day-to-day food shopping, so like they go shopping in that episode, the pool episode, the driving scene when Ryder has to take over when they're falling down a cliff, like those really interactions before the cooking, I think in the second half elevated it for me because it made like the non-cooking slice of life stuff much more enjoyable than just Emiya looking at fish, Emiya interacting with fish dude, Emiya interacting with mushroom. Like that's where it stood out to me, and that's what I really enjoyed. The second half, I was like, I could watch another 20 episodes of this. Where like in the first half, I was like, I'm glad this is only like 13 episodes because I'm kind of getting sick of it. But then I think it got better as time went on. So props to that because I think a lot of times the shows falter towards the end, and I don't think that this show did it. Animation was beautiful. OP was great. OST was fantastic. I love the little chibi moments as well that they did. There's like a squiggly girl scene with the student council. I thought that was really funny. It reminded me of like, I wonder if Nagatoro stole that or something like that. Rin deflating when she was like so full and lazy and tired. Like those scenes to me, like that's what makes slice of life fun for me. That's what makes Iyashiki comforting for me. Are those moments outside of the cooking. So props to that for hitting the nail on the head on the second half. Really enjoyed it. I'm gonna give this an 8.
Okay.
We are a lot higher than I thought we would be. But yeah, I don't know. The only other moment that I would like to call, Jay mentioned this in the chat earlier, when Berserker shows up out of nowhere in the show. That was really good. Like shows up with a tree or whatever. That was because again, like the Fate characters, like their designs are incredible. Their characterization in the show, this just lets it shine even more so than the original show does because they get to goof off and like make references and do little witty moments or whatever. So I was smiling for the most part while watching the show. I am glad it was 13-minute episodes instead of 23 though. I feel like if it was, I would have been a lot lower on this show. Like I think in weekly doses, I think I also would have enjoyed it more than I binged it all in one sitting, except I did that 2 days ago because I didn't pull a Pat this week. But at the end of the day, I still had a good enough time that I think that this 7 out of 10 I think is a very fair score for it. I don't know, anything lower feels malicious or that you just don't like Fate in the same way that anything higher, it's like, oh, you must really, so yeah, all right. Let me do my little math real quick there. That should add us up to 6. A 7.83 on Mal is what I'm getting, or 7.83 is what we get, and on Mal, if I remember correctly, we're at 7.79. So we're actually very close to the Mal score. So good for us. Liking it a little bit more than Mal did. But Miles, why don't we talk about what we're watching 2 weeks from now after a nice time stuffing our faces with turkey days prior? What's going to be our record?
Yes. So Thanksgiving is a time where you eat turkey. But what do they eat instead in England? Horse meat. Now, we won't be watching Uma Musume Pretty Derby, which came in dead last.
We take those.
Okay.
Earning 0 legacy points.
We had a very tight race. The 3 points differed between third place and first place. So Nier came in third. Lane came in second, and then Paranoia Agent came in first.
We get to finish out Satoshi Kon Club.
Yes.
So wow. I did not expect that.
It was not in the lead, and then I think Haz and Kat gave it like 5 extra points 10 minutes before Watch Club.
Nice.
So,
because y'all know how I vote.
Haz was drugged. Haz is drugged out of his mind right now. I'm pretty sure Pete slipped him something.
It's possible.
I voted for Nier.
I voted for Nier. I have my Nier Automata soundtrack right here. I was ready to present it valiantly in happiness and celebration.
Well, we're gonna be watching Paranoia Agent. So.
Yeah, exactly.
well.
All right. Well, let's talk about what we're nominating then, so that we can vote on it. This will be for the episode on the 11th of December. So we are nominating anime that involve Japanese bombers and planes.
Wow.
Jesus Christ.
I couldn't think of anything else that happened.
Near December 11th.
Holy shit, dude.
Yep, might have to edit that one out.
Oh wow! What is Pearl Harbor too recent of a joke for you guys? Like Jesus,
Yes.
like
Dude, that's not funny. My uncle died there.
Oh yeah, your uncle
flying one of the planes.
Yeah, he was one of Japan's greatest pilots.
Yeah,
they didn't have to kamikaze at that point. They were still thinking they were going to win the war. I think we keep that one in. Personally, I'll take the flak for that one.
Much like the ships in Pearl Harbor took.
Yes, exactly. Taking the flak.
Jesus Christ.
What are we nominating, Miles? What are you nominating for Pearl Harbor?
Yeah, so in spirit of Pearl Harbor, I will be nominating Azur Lane, the animation.
Nice.
No, I'm not going to be doing that.
That would have been really good.
We started a good theme there.
I think it runs out pretty quickly. I think you get. I don't know how much you get. So I'm going to be nominating Yuri Kuma Arashi, which translates to Lesbian Bear Storm.
Oh, that's right.
Nice.
So I suggest before people vote that they look this the fuck up, because it seems like it's absolutely fucking unhinged. I'm really excited. Everyone should vote for this because it'll definitely be an episode. We have avant-garde drama fantasy girls love ecchi with themes of anthropomorphic, psychological, and school. I just feel like
wow,
we gotta get there.
That touches a lot of bases.
You've got my first place vote.
All right, Kat, what are you nominating?
So, because Miles is a bitch, I'm going to nominate Arpeggio Blue Skill. I'm kidding. I'm going to nominate Skip and Loafer.
Skip and Loafer. Ooh, that'd be fun.
Yeah, I feel like that'd be a good discussion.
Trent, you must join us for the Skip and Loafer episode.
I just finished it not too long ago, so it's still fresh in my mind.
Yeah, and you could just get bullied by everyone else.
I'll be the one who's super down on whatever we're watching.
Trent's not invited to the cookout. Sorry.
The anime cookout.
Yeah. Jay, what about you? What are you nominating?
I'm nominating something that honestly, most of us will probably have just watched already by the time we're able to by the time we know if it wins or not. I'm nominating Scott Pilgrim, the new Scott Pilgrim anime by Science Saru.
Hell yeah.
So
Scott Pilgrim Takes Off, I think it's what it's called.
Yes. It is not on Mal, but that is because Mal is insane.
It is on Annie list though.
Okay, good.
I'm an Annie list
okay,
W.
I will get the Annie list thing, and then because I mean it's by Science Saru, and the director works at Science Saru, but like there's a clause for Mal that they think it has to be intended for a Japanese audience, and I guess they assume that this isn't.
So Mal is huffing their own farts again.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, the only reason I do
They put link click in there. Not saying link click shouldn't be allowed, but link click is definitely intended for a Chinese audience, and it's allowed to be there.
It's
but
intended
it's fine.
it is
Whatever,
for sure. Yeah, Afro Samurai intended for a Japanese audience primarily.
Anything done by the creator of Cowboy Bebop after Cowboy Bebop.
All right, Trent, what are you nominating?
Yeah, so since Jay has hopped off the near train, and he's getting behind Scott Pilgrim, I'll be the one to take back on near. That way, it still has some representation at least. So I'll go with Nier Automata.
Nice.
Pete, what about you?
I'm nominating a show that is very controversial. It's getting a second season.
Oh.
Yeah. And it's one that I missed from earlier this year that I think would be really fun to talk about to get people's opinions on it. It has an 8.25 on Mal, which I am shocked by this. I'm nominating season 1 of The Dangers in My Heart.
Okay. I'm glad you gave up on the horses.
Just for now. The horses will be back. Don't you worry. They're not going anywhere. But right now they got to live in the stable for a minute. It's cold.
Link Click Part 2.
No, I'm nominating The Princess and the Pilot to stick with our actual theme. No, I am actually. I am going to do Link Click Season 2. Kat is right. Almost won this. No, it didn't almost win. I lied, but it did almost win this past week. So, maybe it'll win this week. Who knows? I don't know. Link Click Season 2, intended for a Japanese audience.
Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely. So, yeah, that's my nomination. I think that rounds us all out. So, that's our episode of the Watch Club. Pete, why don't you take it away?
Yes, if you want to support us, the best way to do so, like, comment, subscribe, leave a review on whatever platform you are watching and or listening to us on. Next week, I believe me and Miles are doing some form of world-building episode, so we're going to be talking world-building in anime and fun stuff like that. Otherwise, if you're here for Watch Club, join us in 2 weeks while we finish out What Do You Say, Satoshi Kon with Paranoia Agent. Thanks, and we'll see you next time. Peace!